Hi guys, welcome back. It means a lot to me that so many of you have been willing to share your stories with me. Thank you for that. I've really enjoyed getting to know you guys on a deeper level. But at the same time, the more of your stories I hear, the more I want to call up some of these employers and give them a piece of my mind. But rather than call them up, today I've decided to call them out. Not for their benefit, because I'm sure they're not listening, but for our benefit, to amplify a voice that we all share. And today I'm going to be sharing some peeks into the stories that you guys have shared with me this week. And it's important to keep in mind that these are just allegations. I haven't independently investigated any of your stories, and I haven't asked any of the agencies or employers that I'm going to talk about for their comments. And that's intentional because I feel like they already have a voice. We don't. This week I've chatted with a lot of you, and it's made me realize that we see a hard truth that managers, policymakers, and even the courts ignore. The system they've created to stop discrimination is being systematically undermined by the very people who are supposed to uphold the law. But instead, big employers and the managers who work for them seem to feel free to violate the law. I don't think they're worried about any consequences. Regardless of what their policies say, there's a covert management system that attacks and tries to silence workers who complain when their rights are violated. Even when their policies say they value diversity and respect our rights, their actions scream otherwise. Even when we fight for our rights and manage to win, the managers who violated our rights in the first place rarely pay a price for what they did. In fact, often they get rewarded with fatter budgets to create new programs that are supposedly going to make it better, and reorgs where they get even more impressive titles and higher salaries, which translates to even more power for them, and ultimately makes it much harder for workers who complain in the future. It's institutional hypocrisy. It's deliberate and it's systemic. It reinforces a system where they get to keep all the power at the expense of us protected workers. In the federal sector, it's funded by taxpayers, and in the private sector, it's funded by consumers. Either way, that's us. You can see the hypocrisy in our stories. For example, the Veterans Administration is supposed to care for veterans, and a lot of veterans believe in that mission and end up going to work for VA because they want to help. But I've heard too many of your stories to believe that that mission really matters. Disabled vets with PTSD as a result of their duty in places like Afghanistan are denied reasonable accommodation, retaliated against, and terminated. Highly skilled medical professionals with invisible disabilities like ADHD and autism are forced to work in unreasonably chaotic work environments that make it nearly impossible for them to succeed. And when they request reasonable accommodation to help them deal with it, they're targeted for retaliation and terminated too. Workers who fight back against the discrimination through EEOC and manage to get reinstated, only to have the retaliation start up all over again. Other workers with highly specialized skill sets that are in high demand, thrown away and blackballed in retaliation for standing up for their rights. And it's not just the VA. This kind of systemic undermining of the EEOC process happens at just about every federal agency. NASA, DHS, Department of Defense, even the Department of Justice, and in the private sector too, at employers like Walmart, SpaceX, and Amazon, to name just a few. We have to stop believing the things they say and start looking at the things they do, because that's what we can believe. Their institutional hypocrisy comes at the expense of us protected workers, as well as taxpayers and consumers. And it's time we started talking about that. We can't afford to keep their secrets anymore. Future workers need to hear more of our stories so they know what to really expect. Congress needs to hear more of our stories if they're ever going to push for meaningful change. We need to hear more of our stories too, so that we know in our hearts that we're not the problem. The problem is the broken system. As long as we sit by silently while the people who broke the system in the first place pretend to fix it, we're going to keep getting exactly what we're getting right now. Harmed. It's scary to tell your story. Believe me, I know. And I understand that it's probably not smart to talk too much about your case until it's resolved. This week, a whole bunch of you shared your stories with me. And again, I want to thank you for that. Win or lose, our stories have the power to create change. And I can't wait. I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care and hang in. Fight smart.